It all kicks off with the grand final battle between humanity's 5 heroes and the fearsome Demon Emperor. In the midst of the clash, a massive amount of energy is unleashed, destroying everything around them. And with one last explosion, the great battle finally reaches its climax and its end. The monster was defeated, but to achieve this, humanity's 5 heroes had to pay a very heavy price. After the dust settles, we see the impeccable knight and the iron fortress supporting the Sky Archer. Elsewhere, our protagonist tries to heal the Sage of Holy Light, who is gravely injured. But one of his comrades warns him that the enemy's final blow wounded her, and she can't be healed. He yells for everyone to shut up and keeps trying to save her, without success. His friend then asks him to stop, telling him not to try and save her anymore because she has already accepted her fate. With a smile on her face, she says she's already satisfied with this ending as her body glows with light. Even in victory, they remember their promise to all return together. But now, this was the end. Just then, our MC hears a familiar voice and wonders if it's the voice of the Demon Emperor. The voice then confirms it's his, and that those are his final words for their magnificent battle. Suddenly, the Dark King's blood envelops his friends, and they realize they've been tricked by the monster. The MC's body begins to transform, and he realizes the enemy's true ability was assimilation. The Demon Emperor then reveals that he prefers to call his unique ability evolution. Meanwhile, the assimilation continues, and our protagonist's body starts to be consumed by darkness. The voice explains that those who defeated him are worthy of becoming his new vessel for his grand masterpiece. He focuses on our hero, saying that he is the strongest human vessel of all. Seeing his comrade being possessed, one of the warriors screams his name, trying to break free. He then says he'd rather fall by his friend's hand than become a tool for the enemy. The protagonist's mind is torn as a voice begs him to abandon this idea and not take out his ally. But the blonde knight yells for him to hurry up, as he can no longer resist the assimilation. The inner voice keeps pleading with him not to let the tragedy of one brother taking down another happen. Blonde asks why his sword is trembling and if his friend can't bring himself to strike him. With a grim look, the protagonist seems to brace himself for what must be done. The monster's voice says that resistance is futile and that his right side has already been completely assimilated. With this, the knight understands that it wasn't weakness, and a small smile appears on his face. And in a swift motion, the sword's blade cuts through the air, heading towards its target. To everyone's surprise, the sword pierces through the protagonist's friend's chest. With a smile, the blonde says that only someone as ruthless and deadly as him is worthy of that ability. The MC calls him brother, and his ability awakens, causing a mark to appear on his face. Immediately after, he pulls the sword from his friend's body as the assimilation retreats from his arm. The archer, watching from a distance, screams her boss's name in despair. She and the knight tell him not to let the sacrifice be in vain and to do whatever it takes. With a look full of determination and hatred, our protagonist seems to have made his final decision. He then takes the lives of his other 2 companions, and the number 2 appears on his face. With that, a third mark appears, indicating that he has absorbed the power of all his allies. Screaming in pain and rage, the protagonist unleashes an enormous amount of golden energy. The enemy's voice says that 3 lives traded for power were only enough to free his hand. But our hero replies that to solve the final problem, a single hand is more than enough. He then raises his sword towards his own neck, surprising the monster's consciousness. At this, the entity furiously screams for him to stop this madness immediately. His demonic hand grabs the blade, and the voice warns him not to test its patience any further. And with a bit of force, the sword shatters into several pieces before our young man's eyes. With the destruction of the holy sword Sulla, the monster believes it has won the battle once and for all. The entity then boosts, saying that no attack in this world can harm its invincible shell. But suddenly, the sound of something breaking echoes through the place, leaving the creature confused. Our hero then asks if the demon really thought he couldn't destroy himself. And with a shout, he strikes his own chest, piercing his body with his free hand. Surprised by the young man's action, the monster screams his name as a massive explosion occurs. After the dust settles, we see a scene of destruction with a trail of dark energy in the sky. The enemy's consciousness admits it underestimated him, and the protagonist wonders if this is his end. Kneeling and wounded, the warrior laments that he couldn't save anyone, and that not all demons were annihilated. With a sad and defeated look, our young man seems to accept his lonely fate. Just then, a giant mysterious figure appears and says what happened is a pity. With that, the scene changes, and we see that 5 years have passed since the great final battle. In a dark forest, someone comments that it's been 5 years since their boss left them. Another voice calls him an idiot and asks if he doesn't know what they're doing tonight. A monster says all he knows is that he had to bring 4 human girls and a demon to this location. He explains that this year's memorial will ensure the new generation never forgets their creator's sacrifice. With that, the monster announces the beginning of the ritual and says he'll start with the 4 human offerings. In a swift move, he attacks the girls. Seeing this, the other demons advance to feast on what's left of the offerings. He then turns and says that now he will spill demon blood to honor their former emperor. Then we see that the final offering is our protagonist, who is hanging and badly wounded. Slowly he opens his eyes and wonders confusedly where he is and how he ended up in this place. He doesn't understand how he's alive, as he remembered perishing in the battle. But the insect monster kicks him and yells for the trash not to move, leaving him stunned. He continues, saying the prisoner is the weakest demon and doesn't even deserve a name. Shocked, our young man wonders if he's become a demon and notices that his eyes are now green. The insect then says that being a sacrifice here is the greatest honor he could ever have in his life. With that said, the executioner raises his blade, preparing to deliver the final blow to our hero. With a swift movement, the monster's weapon descends at high speed towards the young man. But to the green creature's surprise, its blade doesn't hit the target, and something unexpected happens. The insect monster becomes furious with the young man and yells at him to stop squirming because he ruined everything. Our guy then breaks free from the vines that held him, falling to the ground and escaping the attack. The green creature is shocked by the scene and wonders if the prisoner did that on purpose. With an intimidating glare, the MC asks if the half-breed demon can't recognize him. Seeing those eyes, the insect starts to sweat bullets and stammers, unable to say a single word. A memory flashes in its mind, and it screams the protagonist's name in complete panic. He then remembers an old battle at sea, where he served in the demon army. Back then, he was just a rookie and was sent to row with the other monsters on the ship. One of his superiors told him to put his back into it, because the four lords were watching everything. In the year 312, the Lin clan used the power of the sea gods and launched a surprise attack. The assault was so fast that only a single human arrived in time to stop the enormous fleet. Alone on a small raft, that man prepared to face an entire army of demons. That was the protagonist, Glon, the demon slayer of Belu City, one of humanity's strongest heroes. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Demon King was preparing to give the attack command to his troops. But the only thing the insect remembers from that day was that all of his allies perished. The creature remembers that all its comrades were taken out in that terrible confrontation at sea. It recalls that with the exception of Lord Xiu, all the other demons met their end that day. Amidst the destruction, several demon kings were annihilated, and only one of them survived. Even covered in blood, the hero's gaze showed a determination, as if he were gathering his aura. In the midst of the rain and lightning, the warrior stood firm and imposing before his enemies. Back in the present, the insect monster's face shows pure terror as it faces our young man. He then explains that with the right angle, it's easy to destroy the weak spot of crustacean demons. Our guy realizes he has been resurrected, but his ability has been reset to level 1. Seeing this, the other demons shout to get him and charge all at once to attack. With just a few moves, he annihilates 9 demons, and a Roman numeral appears on his body. He says the minions were weak, and that he only got a little stronger with his ability. Another monster watching from a distance is terrified by the strength shown by the young man. Seeing it has no chance, the bizarre creature tries to flee from that place as fast as possible. But the protagonist uses the insect's blade and pins the centipede to the ground, preventing its escape. As the creature screams in pain, our young man approaches and grabs one of its legs with his hand. After the fight, he goes to the girls' bodies and covers them with a cloth to give them some dignity. Even in a new body and with a new life, his determination as a hero of humanity hasn't changed. He then tries to use a healing spell to test his powers, and a green light appears in his hand. But suddenly, 3 snakes burst from his arm, and he wonders why his hand turned out like this. His hand transforms into a reptilian claw, and he screams in denial, unable to believe what he's seeing. He looks at the body of one of the demons on the ground, and the harsh reality begins to weigh on his mind. Desperate, the young man falls to his knees as spikes begin to sprout from his back. He finally understands that he wasn't resurrected, but reincarnated into the body of a demon. With his hand on his face, he can't accept that he has become part of this shameful race he hates so much. He remembers how he despised this inferior race, and now he is one of them. With a cry of rage, he says that the only value demons have is being taken out by him. After his outburst, he calms down a bit, but the expression on his face remains grim. The taste in his mouth is bitter, and he spits on the ground in disgust with himself and his new form. The centipede threatens him, saying it will torment him and make him scream in pain like a human. He ignores the threats and says he doesn't know why he ended up like this, but he understands the consequences. The monster wonders why the coward from before is so different but decides to scare him some more. But before it could do anything, our hero charges forward and annihilates the centipede with a single blow. With the insect's blade in hand, he mercilessly finishes off the last monster in that place. Even as a demon, he decides he will continue his old mission of annihilating all of them. With a terrifying smile, he says he has nothing to complain about because now he can hunt them from the inside. He remembers hearing that 5 years have passed since he perished along with the demon emperor. Now, He decides it's best to find a place to stay and then investigate what happened more thoroughly. As he climbs, he spots the skull of a giant troll and recognizes the place where he is. He realizes the demons have built a fortress there and finds it very convenient for them. The fortress was built on the skeleton of the Round Mountain Troll, an old enemy of his. Continuing on his way, he finds the cave where he once stayed and confirms his memories are correct. The place seems safe and free of demons, so he decides to use it as a temporary hideout. To warm up and rest a bit, our young hero decides to light a small campfire. Sitting near the fire, he reflects on everything that has happened and how his life has changed drastically. Even with a new body, his eyes still carry the same determination as before his previous life ended. Near the fire, he begins to carve a small wooden doll to pass the time. At this, a memory of his old friends comes to his mind, and he remembers the good times. He recalls a day when one of his friends had to improvise and gave him a leaf skirt. His companions couldn't hold it together and burst out laughing at his new look. Our hero was obviously not at all happy with the joke and was clearly not amused. Back in the present, a strong wave of nostalgia hits him, and a melancholic look takes over his face. He then finishes carving the small wooden statue of one of his former companions. Carefully, he places the figure next to others he had made before. In total, he made 5 small statues, one for each of his friends who were gone. Looking at the figures, he remembers that time and how different things were. Another memory surfaces, and he laments, thinking he could have done better. With a serious expression, he then picks up one of the small wooden statues and eats it. Immediately after, he throws the rest of the dolls into the fire to burn and turn to ash. The memories of his friends fade as the fire slowly consumes the wood. Since he's a demon now, he decides to use it to his advantage and destroy them from the inside. Suddenly, a sharp headache hits him, and he starts receiving the memories of the demon's body. He sees that the former owner was a weak, snake-blooded demon who was always getting beaten up by others. In the memories, the demon worked as a servant on Round Mountain, and our hero wonders if he was a farmer. Another memory shows a demon teacher giving a lesson on world affairs to other monsters. One of the students complains about the class, and we see that the body's former owner was being used as a footstool for a demon. He remembers that demons were tools of war created by the bloodthirsty emperor, but in just 5 years they developed a civilization and settled in these lands. With all this new information, our hero finally leaves the cave to explore the world outside. Looking at the horizon, he regrets not being strong enough to solve everything in the past. So he swears that in this life, he will become stronger than ever to annihilate all demons. Using the demon's memories, he finds a map that shows the location of Training Ground 2. That was Round Mountain's Training Ground number 2, a place full of demon recruits. A red instructor yells at the recruits, saying he doesn't want to repeat the lesson about the Soulless Continent. Observing the scene, our young man finally understands the current situation and what has happened in recent years. After the Emperor's demise, the demons led by Xiu continued the war against the humans. The instructor announces that the topic of the class is talent marks and cleans the map with a recruit. He explains that the marks are innate abilities and that every demon is born with one, unlike humans. To use the ability, both humans and demons need to consume an internal power. The strength of this power is shown by symbols ranging from 1 to 6 marks, with the first being the weakest. The red demon boasts about being a 2-mark warrior and unleashes his yellow aura. Our hero realizes that he also only has 1 mark now and that he needs to test his new abilities. The instructor continues, saying that the 2nd mark is a milestone as it awakens the user's ultimate technique. Suddenly, the other demons make way for someone important to pass through the crowd. A blonde demon shoves our guy and arrogantly tells him to get out of the way. That was the camp's genius recruit, a powerful demon with several knight helmets as trophies. He says he doesn't need a footstool and asks who let this useless servant in here. The instructor tells the genius to shut up and says that the practical training is about to begin. He explains that in combat, the power and type of the mark don't completely decide the victory. Pulling a tarp, he reveals a giant creature and says that tactics and adaptation are also vital. With an excited smile, the blonde demon says that finally, something fun is going to happen. The instructor reveals that the creature was made by the former emperor and that now, only this one remains. He says it's a very strong howling demon and that the beast's body has only 1 weak spot. Our hero watches everything from a distance and seems to find the whole situation quite boring. He thinks there's nothing useful for him here and decides it's time to leave this place. He regrets not being able to annihilate the demons to level up and decides not to draw attention. Suddenly, the giant creature's eye glows an intense red, and it prepares to attack. Beast then easily breaks free from its chains and charges furiously at the recruits. The red instructor tries to hold the monster back with the chain and yells for the creature to stay put. He boasts that even though the beast has 3 marks, its weak spot is in his hands. But to the red demon's surprise, the creature lets out a terrifying and mocking smile. The beast then says that the new generation of demons is pathetic, leaving the instructor in shock. It reveals that it's been faking it for weeks to complete its master's mission, and now it will annihilate them all. The monster's body begins to crack, and dark energy is released from within. In the blink of an eye, the creature lunges forward and annihilates the demon instructor with a single blow. All the other recruits, including the blonde genius, are completely terrified by the scene. Launches a devastating attack against the roots, wiping out several demons at once. The blonde genius is shocked by the monster's strength and decides to run so he doesn't have to use his secret weapon. As he tries to escape, he bumps into our protagonist, who intentionally blocks his path. Lying on the ground, the arrogant demon yells furiously, asking why the bastard is getting in his way. With a calm look, our young man just wipes some blood off his armor, ignoring the commotion. Amidst the chaos, the giant creature notices that one of the recruits stayed behind and stares at him intently. With a smile, the beast taunts him, asking if he can escape as it takes out more demons. Seeing he has no way out, the blonde prepares to use his secret weapon as a last resort. The monster then launches a powerful and dark attack directly at our hero. Enormous dark claws advance at high speed, ready to crush the young demon. But instead of running, the protagonist faces the attack head-on as his eyes glow intensely. The beast is surprised and wonders what's happening and where that strange aura is coming from. It doesn't understand why the weakling doesn't fear it and wonders if he knows its true weakness. But it dismisses the idea, as its 9 relatives perished years ago, and a rookie would have never seen them. With a powerful stomp on the ground, our young man prepares to show the monster what true power is. The beast convinces itself that it's impossible, and that this is all just an act from the young demon. Standing amidst the destruction, our hero faces the monster with an overwhelming presence. With a dark glare, he warns that if the creature takes one more step, it will meet its end. The creature decides to get serious, preparing to show off its authority. With that, unleashes a primal power and lunges forward with a devastating attack against our guy. But our hero remains standing without a single scratch, while the blonde demon is down for the count behind him. The monster makes a swift move. Fleeing at top speed, the monster thinks the fight is too risky and decides it's better to just book it. Everyone is shocked to see the massive demon run away, and the blonde genius can't believe what he just saw. Then, our hero offers a hand to the demon on the ground to help him up. The blonde demon looks at him with an expression of total confusion, not understanding what's happening. He thinks the MC is trying to get close and says that he's a two-seal genius while the other is just a servant. With a disdainful look, the arrogant genius says he won't fall for our hero's silly little trick. At that moment, our guy simply rips off a piece of the blonde demon's clothes, leaving him stunned. He then uses the piece of fabric to wipe the blood from his hand with an eerie calm. The blondie becomes absolutely furious at his attitude and calls him a filthy farmer. Soon, the other recruits approach and ask how he managed to scare off the howling demon. One of them demands an answer, and our hero explains that he read the creature can't see stationary objects. The demons buy the lie, and one of them says the book was written by the demon slayer Garen. With a sly grin, our hero reveals he was lying, and that howling demons actually have excellent vision. The blonde demon gets annoyed and accuses the newbie of being arrogant just because he's read a few books. One of the henchmen asks if their boss is okay, and he plays it off, saying he's just tired. Then, the genius orders his 5 followers to track the MC and take him out in the most humiliating way possible. The 5 demons accept the mission with malicious grins, ready to hunt down our hero. They follow him to a secluded spot and say they've followed him long enough and it's time to make their move. With that, the 5 goons emerge from the fog, and one of them says no one will interfere with their fight. The monsters spread out in the fog, surrounding our protagonist, so he has no way to escape. They comment that his venom is weak and that a bite will, at most, just sting a little. So, the demons decide to split up to find him in the middle of all that smoke. Suddenly, one of the goons screams in pain, saying the scoundrel's snake bit his stomach. His body then succumbs to the venom, and he just explodes into a million pieces. The green spreads through the area and begins to affect the other monsters as well. With that, 2 demons scream in desperation, saying there's poison in the smoke and that their eyes are burning. Our young man's silhouette appears in the middle of the poisonous smoke as the demon screams in agony. He says he's going to use these 5 nasty things to test the applications of his talent seal. His ancient serpent bloodline gives him thermal vision, and he explains how he can now see in the dark. Furthermore, by concentrating power in his arms, he can create snakes to attack his enemies. The demons wonder what happened to their friends, and our MC reflects on his newfound tactical flexibility. Suddenly, the leader of the demons lets out a powerful howl, preparing for combat. At that moment, our hero finally emerges from the smoke. The red demon taunts him, saying he's nothing without the fog, while his brother threatens him. The monster charges at high speed, ready to deliver a devastating blow. He readies his blade arm for a powerful attack that slices through the air. The demon continues his move with a furious expression, ready to finish our guy off once and for all. Watching the scene, the other monster is impressed by the power displayed by his brother. But our protagonist remains calm, analyzing the enemy's every move with his eyes. The monster's blow approaches rapidly, seeming impossible to dodge or defend against. To everyone's surprise, the MC dodges the attack and lands a brutal hit on the demon. The surviving demon is completely paralyzed with fear by what just happened. Seeing he has no chance, the creature surrenders and begs for his life, blaming the blondie for the orders. But our protagonist doesn't seem the least bit convinced by his lame excuse. Desperate, the monster offers to lead him to the blondie's secret cave, which must hold precious treasures. The MC thinks he can use the treasures to evolve and decides it's worth checking out. So, the two walk through a forest, and the monster announces they're almost there. Reaching the edge of a cliff, the creature points to a cave hidden behind the waterfall. But before the monster realizes it, our hero grabs him from behind, sending the creature into a panic. The MC uses him as a human shield and throws him straight into an arrow trap. With the path clear, our young man thanks the creature for disarming the trap for him. The cave is a deep pit filled with arrows, with a small chest waiting at the end. Meanwhile, at the mountain fortress, a demon prepares to give a report. He informs his leader that a howling demon was scared off by a simple snake servant. The territory's leader, named Bone Crusher, hears the report and finds it all very interesting. Back in the cave, our hero picks up the chest and wonders why it's the only box there. Inside the box, he finds a small pouch, but a voice yells at him to drop the item. Suddenly, the blonde genius appears in a swift attack and manages to snatch the pouch from our young man's hands. Furious, the arrogant demon yells at him, asking how he dares to touch his precious things. The furious demon throws a kick in our young man's direction. Our hero dodges the blondie's attack, who then falls to the ground, crying out that his leg was injured in the attack. The blonde genius is shocked and wonders why he's so different from before. He realizes he can't fight head-on and needs to retreat so his leg can heal. So he decides to fall back and flies away at high speed to escape the fight. We see the blondie fleeing at top speed. Standing under the waterfall, our young man notes that it was another avian-type demon. Alone in the cave, he seems thoughtful, reflecting on what just happened there. In that moment, a dark memory of other avian demons suddenly surfaces in his mind. We see our hero's feet as he decides he must go after the blondie. He then runs at high speed through the tunnel towards the blonde demon. With a look of rage, he prepares to eliminate the demon. Shouting, our hero says that avian demons deserve to be wiped out the most. He catches up to the blonde demon in mid-air and attacks him with a powerful punch. With the impact, the two begin to plummet at high speed toward the lake. Even in freefall, our young man lands a devastating punch right in the enemy's face. The blondie then uses his claws to land a brutal blow on the MC. But he ends up kicking him, sending him flying into the water. Our hero then lands gently on the lake, as if it were nothing. The blondie taunts him, saying he was unlucky to fall into the bile lake. Suddenly, something begins to move under the water's surface, getting closer. With that, several strange creatures emerge from the bottom of the lake and surround our young man. The creatures grab him from all sides, but he doesn't seem the least bit worried. The blondie explains that those bugs will devour him until there's nothing left. He reveals that the lake was formed by the bile of a very powerful demon clan. Being pulled under, he bites one of the creatures with all his might. With this, he begins to absorb the creature's energy to increase his own power. He breaks free from the creatures with a blast of power, leaving everything around him destroyed. The blondie is surprised by his strength but quickly regains his composure. He says that even if the protagonist is strong, he'll never be able to finish off all the insects. Then our young man launches an attack with his hand, and several energy snakes surge toward the blondie. The energy snakes shoot out of the water and attack the demon in the air at high speed. He dodges and slices through the snakes with his wings, mocking the attack speed. He continues to taunt, saying that at this speed, our hero would be lucky to haul manure. The demon continues to dodge and cut the endlessly appearing energy snakes, saying that our young man's snakes are too slow and are, at best, good for tilling the soil. The blondie warns that he'll be slowly worn down to nothing and calls him a filthy farmer. Suddenly, all the insects in the lake gather together, forming a giant, weird ball. The energy snakes fuse with the ball of insects, creating a bizarre creature. The bizarre creature soars into the sky at high speed, surprising the blonde demon. With a determined look, our hero prepares his final attack to end the fight. The creature of snakes and insects charges at high speed toward the blonde demon. The bizarre creature hits the demon head on with a swift attack, shocked by the speed and wonders how the attack got so fast all of a sudden. With that, only the remains of the annihilated insects are left in the lake. He says the insects only got him to the second seal, but that's enough to deal with the bird. Chilling smile, he threatens the blondie, saying that in the next blink he'll slice open his skull. The demon calls him crazy for spouting such nonsense and grabs a bow to defend himself. Then, our young man advances at an incredible speed, leaving the enemy completely surprised. The blondie yells not to be underestimated and charges his arrow with a powerful purple energy. He reveals that it is Lord Shu's magic arrow, and that fate has saved it for this very moment. He fires the arrow, unleashing a blast of energy toward our hero. The blondie seems confident that his final attack will hit its mark. But to his surprise, our protagonist simply stops the arrow with his bare hand. Energy serpents emerge from his body, and the blondie doesn't understand what's happening. The serpents then envelop our young man and the magic arrow in a completely bizarre scene. They form a cocoon around him and fall back into the water. Slowly, our young man's hand emerges from the water, surrounded by a mysterious purple energy. The blondie watches from the shore, confused, wondering if his deadly arrow managed to finish him. Suddenly, a pink-haired demon appears and runs over worriedly, asking if her brother is okay. She says she followed the trail of feathers, and he reassures her, saying he just dealt with a petty thief. He then looks at the pouch in his hand. With that, the demon reveals that the treasure is to treat her eyes and that he will protect it with his life. In the water, the cocoon of snakes absorbs the arrow, and the blondie remembers the weapon didn't have that power. Our young man is confused and doesn't understand why his body is transforming in such a way. His eye glows as one of the serpents approaches him, as if they were connected. Then, a very bright white light takes over everything, and a silhouette appears in the middle of the glow. His eye transforms, gaining an infinity symbol and a completely new power. The symbol reveals itself as a serpent in the shape of a figure 8, indicating a complete evolution. With a new white-haired look, he finally understands what happened to his body. The energy of the purple arrow is completely absorbed by his new form. He realizes his awakening was triggered by the arrow and calls himself a greedy serpent. With the ancient bloodline, he awakens an impressive power of annihilation. This power is called a serpent's molt and shows its full destructive potential. An explosion of purple and white energy consumes our young man's body in an epic transformation. On the shore, the two demons think he's sunk and that the fight is finally over. The blondie wipes the blood from his face and says they can now relax. But suddenly, the sky darkens and lightning begins to strike, changing the entire atmosphere. A heavy rain starts to fall, and the two siblings look up at the sky, completely confused. Dark purple lightning bolts slash across the sky, creating a terrifying scene. The blondie recognizes it as black thunder and is completely stunned. The lake water begins to bubble and glow with an intense purple light. A huge explosion of energy erupts from the bottom of the lake, illuminating everything around. The shockwave from the explosion nearly knocks over the two demons as they shield themselves. The blondie says something jumped out from within the lightning, and his sister asks what it is and where it is. She points to the middle of the lake with a look of fear on her face. In the middle of the lake, a statue emerges with our hero on top of it, in a new form and with new power. The blonde demon can't believe what he's seeing and is in total shock. Our hero appears in berserk mode, now with white hair and an imposing aura. The two siblings watch his new form with fear and prepare for the worst. Our young man reveals his new form, called Fierce Thunder. He admits his mistake to be deceived before. But now everything will be different. The blondie doesn't accept defeat and charges forward furiously, yelling at him not to get cocky. He flies at high speed toward our hero, but the MC launches a purple attack. The attack hits the demon head on, causing him to fall toward the lake. He screams in fury for being tricked once again by our young man. The attack destroys the blondie's wing, leaving him vulnerable and unable to fly. The protagonist says the blondie's power level isn't enough to test his new abilities. With one last energy attack, he hurls the demon forcefully into the water. His sister watches everything in despair and screams her brother's name in a panic. She runs towards the lake in the rain, trying to find her missing brother. The blondie sinks into the water and laments, saying that if only he were stronger, things would be different. He knows that after he's gone, the protagonist certainly won't spare his sister. With a roar of fury, he unleashes a blast of energy to save himself. Our young man watches the scene with a smirk, not looking surprised. The blondie reveals his new form, called Dove's Feather Suit, with a yellow aura. His sister is moved to see that he has finally awakened his authority. With tears in her eyes, she says she won't let him fight alone anymore. She then uses her dominant demonic eye to summon a giant, shadowy beast. The two siblings shout together, preparing a combined attack. That they launch an attack, called the Falling Sky Arrow, toward our hero. But our young man prepares to fight back with all his newly awakened power. He concentrates his purple energy and launches a devastating beam against their attack. The two attacks collide, creating an explosion of yellow and purple energy. Our hero charges through the middle of the explosion, ready to end the fight once and for all. He lands a powerful punch on the blondie, who has no chance to defend himself. The impact of the blow is so strong that the blondie is thrown far away. The summoned beast tries to devour our hero, but he doesn't let it get the best of him. He turns in mid-air and launches a purple energy attack at the creature. With a viper's bite, he destroys the beast in a single blow. After the explosion, our young man lands on the water. The blondie sees this as his chance to attack while he's distracted. With a sneak attack, he uses the insect bodies as cover and advances. But our hero defends against the attack with a purple energy barrier. The blondie's sister uses her reinforcement gaze to strengthen his attack. The beast she summoned also prepares to attack with full force. She unleashes a woven cloud storm, a powerful and devastating attack. The blondie thinks the protagonist can't block the attack and advances confidently. But our young man unleashes a blast of energy and says not to be underestimated. He uses the abyss storm, an attack that deprives the enemy of their senses. With that, the blondie falls into the water, defeated, and his sister runs to help him. He hands the pouch to her and tells her to run, but she refuses to abandon him. He desperately hands her the pouch of eyes, begging her to flee. Our young man approaches, and the blondie begs for the return of the bag with the eyes. In the bag, several human eyes are revealed, and the blondie continues to plead. Our hero explains that his sister needs to eat fresh human eyes to keep from going blind. The two siblings hug and beg for mercy, saying they don't want the eyes anymore. The MC turns away and says he's going to ask a question as the rain stops. He asks if the people who had their eyes plucked out also begged for mercy. The two siblings are left speechless by his question and don't know what to say. With a cold gaze, he demands a yes or no answer, no beating around the bush. They look at each other sadly, and the sister says she's forgotten. She looks down with a blank expression, as if she doesn't care about the victims. Our hero reflects that demons haven't changed at all, even with their new civilization. Sitting on the shore, he thinks they've just gone from hurting for pleasure to hurting for profit. He bites an apple and concludes that they treat life as something worthless. With his new form, he says his biggest gain was the fierce thunder form. He explains that this form consumes a ton of energy, so he can't use it whenever he wants. A demon calls his boss over to see the bodies and says their demise had nothing to do with the weather. He reveals that the siblings' heads were ripped off by a lightning strike in a quick and violent method. The boss Bone Crusher arrives and says it looks like an unwanted guest has invaded her territory. Meanwhile, someone is hiding in the forest, watching the scene from afar. The leader warns that she will personally investigate any mysterious ends of new talents. With a hoe on his shoulder, our young man walks through the forest as if he were a simple farmer. Bone Crusher sees him and approaches him with a suspicious look. She asks who he is and what he's doing there, and he replies that he's looking for wild berries. The boss then remembers him as the farm slave who scared off the howling demon. She shoves him aside, saying she has more important things to deal with right now. The demon steps on him and threatens him, telling him to find some good berries for her pie. He falls to the ground under her foot, looking completely helpless and submissive. She leans in close with a seductive smile and threatens him.